Hey everyone, this is Jerry with San Pedro Mastery. In this video I will show you how you can produce your own San Pedro seeds, looking at 3 different ways to achieve that goal. You can either start from seeds, start with already established seedlings, or by cuttings from an adult plant. If you start from seeds, that will be the longest way to get your plants to flower and produce the fruits that contain the seeds, as it could take very roughly 10 to 15 years for the plant to flower and make seeds. It will be, however, a very satisfying feeling to think that you went from seeds to seeds, the complete cycle. You produce seeds out of seeds. Second option. You can save a year by buying live seedlings that are already about a year old. In theory, just 2 seedlings will be enough. I say in theory because they both have to make it to the age of 10 or 15, which is not granted. A way to increase the chances of them making it to that age is to buy 5, 10 or 20 seedlings to start with. Like this, if a couple of them die, you still have others to fall back on. Also, with more seedlings, you increase the chances of producing seeds earlier, because some plants will flower for the first time a year earlier than others. So by having a set of 10 plants, you increase the chances of earlier flowers. Each adult San Pedro can have several flowers every year. For instance, the tip that you see here is about to have 8 flowers, which could mean up to 8 fruits if everything goes well. And each fruit can contain from a few hundreds to a couple of thousand seeds. Of course, 8 flowers per tip is a lot. More commonly, you will get about 2 to 5 flowers per tip. And not all flowers will turn to seeds. First, the flower needs to be pollinated successfully, then the fruit has to come to a full development, as sometimes it aborts before that. And by the way, for those of you who would not know, there are no male or female plants with the San Pedro or other sacred cacti in the Trichocereus family. Each flower can give pollen to another flower, or receive pollen from another flower. And each flower can therefore turn into a fruit. So if you have 2 adult San Pedro plants, you can have fruits on both plants because each plant can receive pollen from the other plant. And just to clarify one more thing, when I talk about transfer of pollen from a flower to another, that is from separate plants. You cannot pollinate a flower on one plant with pollen from another flower on the same plant. You need 2 separate plants, each of them grown from separate seeds. So far in this video, I've talked about starting from seeds and seedlings, and that involves waiting for a long time until you have seeds. But there is a way to get there much faster, possibly even this year or the next one. That is to start with cuttings. Take for instance these 3 San Pedros that I bought as is. I still haven't repotted them. You would think that they would give you flowers much faster than if you start now from seeds and seedlings, right? Well, they will, but does that mean they will have fruits? For them to have fruits, the flowers need to be pollinated with pollen from a different plant. And by different plant, I mean grown from a different seed. For all you know, these 3 plants might just be top cuts taken from the same adult plant, so the flower will never be able to pollinate each other. And by the way, the fact they are planted in the same pot is irrelevant. I could have perfectly bought them potted in 3 separate pots, and the problem would be the same. They are likely to be cutting from the same plant, grown from the same seed. So how can I know if these 3 plants are cutting from an adult plant that have been replanted together in this pot, and not plants grown from 3 separate seeds? Well, because their base is way too fat compared to their height. Also, they show slight etiolation, typical of a cutting that has been repotted. Another example, here are 4 Pachanoi squeezed against each other in too small a pot. I'm about to separate them from each other. Now they are taken out of the soil. Thankfully, the plants have not made too many roots yet, and you can see the base pretty well. Notice how the plants were previously cut at the base. This indicates they are cuttings. They could well possibly be cuttings from the same plant, which means they would not be fertile with each other. A good way to make sure your cuttings can pollinate each other is to buy them of different strains. For instance, you could get 2 different looking strains of San Pedro. Of course, just like you can get plants of different strains, you could also get plants of different species within the Trichocereus genus. For instance, if you pollinate a San Pedro with a Bolivian Torch, you will get an hybrid, which is cool as well. Try to get a piece that has already flowered before. A branch that has flowered in the past on an adult plant is, in my experience, very likely to flower again after you cut it and repot it. So when you look for a cutting for sale, if you want it to flower, try to get a piece that has previously flowered. You will know that the piece has already flowered by the marks left by the previous flowers. And the larger the cutting, the better. Although pieces that are a couple of feet tall and with a width of 3 inches or more usually flower again without problem for me. Don't take my word for it though, as flowering is often a hit and miss, unpredictable process. One more point to take into consideration is that some strains flower more easily than others. Take for instance this strain of Pachanoi. I have been following it for many years and it has never flowered, not once. Whereas other strains of Pachanoi, planted in the earth very close to it, in the same exact conditions, do flower abundantly every year. So that is another reason why you should try to get a cutting that has already flowered in the past, if what you want is producing seeds, of course. In North America, and to a lesser extent in Australia, beware of the PC Pachanoi, or as some may call it, the fake San Pedro. You will find all you need to know about it in my video titled How to Identify the PC Pachanoi and What is it really. The huge majority of the San Pedros offered for sale in the USA and Canada are the PC kind, so make sure you watch that video before you purchase a cutting or a potted San Pedro over there. To sum it up, the safest and cheapest, and most rewarding as you get to accompany them through their youth, is growing them from seeds or seedlings. Starting with cuttings of adult plants can allow you to produce seeds much faster, but you have to make sure your cuttings don't come from the same plant, and it is a good idea to get pieces that have already flowered. Also, if you're in the USA and Canada, you must be aware of the PC Pachanoi. All for now. There will be more videos of mine specifically aimed at flowering and seed production, so make sure you tick the little bell and subscribe. And while you're at it, hit like if you enjoyed this video. This will help my channel grow. Thanks for watching and I'll see you again next week.